The internet is cracked, the show that asks the question, can we coexist with our creation? I am Caroline Risberg.
And I am Seth Camillo.
We are The Internet is Cracked by Addicts for Addicts.
Today we are here with Leighton Pierce. Leighton is my mentor and very good friend. I met Leighton at the age of 18 years old when I began studying film at the University of Iowa and when he was a professor. I also did my graduate work at the University of Iowa and was lucky enough to have him through that period as well. He has won over 60 awards from film and experimental festivals, grants such as the Rockefeller Guggenheim's Creative Capital Award and the National Endowment for the Arts, and has screened his films at the Museum of Modern Art, the Sundance Film Festival. He has said, I take that as my mission through the use of image and sound. I am composing an experience for the audience. And I think that is very well said. When I watch your films, that is the feeling I get.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody on that mission. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And I would like to start out by pointing out we're going to be talking about technology and film, video, media making. And it's interesting to be talking about technology since photography and film are such a young technology in and of themselves. First photograph, 1827. First moving pictures, late 1800s. Sound with film, really started going in the 30s. So we're under 100 years for sound married with film, really.
Yeah.
So in and of itself, filmmaking is a technological marvel. And I would ask you, my first question would be, how have things changed, do you think, since the internet, in a general way, since the internet has come on the scene and since it's begun to blossom? What are your feelings as a filmmaker?
I think the first benefit from the internet is a positive one because it increases the communicative connections we can have with many other people. And now, you can collaborate. You don't have to be anywhere near people. You can be collaborating with someone in China. It's a huge question because I'm thinking, okay, that's the internet, but then there's social media, which is a subset of the internet, but that is like massive. And that came a little bit later. And that has huge disadvantages and advantages, I think. And we could talk about that. So I started in film, 16 millimeter. And then eventually, well, always I was doing video at the same time, but video was a little clunky and a little hard to edit sometimes even. And then video became normal, and then digital video came, and that's around when the internet really kind of raised its head. But as the internet evolved, it allowed for me to communicate kind of almost instantaneously with people all over the world, which helps with collaboration or just community building. So I have, now, 20 some years into the functional internet, I have people in India and in Europe and in different parts of the world that I can just communicate regularly with. So that's about film. It's either about critiques of film or making films. So that's the initial advantage. In the beginning, I felt it was mostly advantageous. I didn't immediately see any downsides. But the internet is such a huge question because right now there's so many kind of factions within the internet, social media, software, editing software that is basically dependent on the internet to work. You can be editing at the same time with people all over the world, certainly sharing sound files and all that kind of stuff. Well, we are addicted. I'm kind of going with your theme here that we were definitely addicted to this thing. And now it's just part of like having coffee in the morning and turning on the water faucet and water comes out. So I open up the computer and it's right there.
Right.
Yes.
It's so normalized.
But I just feel like the internet, or as you were saying, more the social media and all of this is changing the compositions of films. Everybody is a filmmaker today.
Yes.
everyone, they're making, everyone is a director. You have basically on your iPhone, you have the camera, you have this, you have everything.
I mean, when I started, now I'm being the old guy, back in the day when, cars had square wheels, um, it was really hard, to see movies. Like, when I started, you had to be there at 7 o'clock on Thursday, whenever, when it was being shown, and that was your chance. And when I first started, uh, teaching, we had a few deep, Betamax players and 3/4 inch, and we could get a few movies, and it was really difficult still, even then. But now, my students can see almost anything, w
Yes.
whenever. They can just watch it, and they also can grab it and
Yes.
really study it if they choose to study it. So that was a major challenge in the past. So I see that as an advantage. But now, social media, I avoided Facebook. I still don't really do Facebook. But when TikTok arrived, actually Vine. Do you know Vine?
Yes, Vine. I love Vine, actually. I'm sorry it's
Vine
gone.
Vine was gone. Yeah, it's gone, but it was very cool. It was 6 seconds?
7.
7. Oh,
7
okay, long
seconds.
much longer. But I thought Vine was amazing because it really focused on that 7 seconds, and people did amazing loop things. They just did stuff on there that the very restrictive parameters forced really interesting creative solutions. So I thought Vine was, pretty amazing. And when TikTok started, it was sort of more like a return to Vine, but with a lot of really cool tools, like lip syncing tools and duetting tools and just all kinds of stuff that they added on. And in the beginning, I really liked TikTok because I think it started, I think it was 15 seconds in the very beginning.
Yeah.
I'm not remembering this quite right. And then it got to be a minute, and I was going, uh-oh, now it's like 10 minutes. It's basically, uh, I mean, I still watch it, and I still find these things very interesting. But they've kinda take the rigor out 'cause they have a different mission. I'm interested in kind of focusing on, uh, restrictive parameters that increase creativity, and they're, of
Mm,
course, trying to make money and keep eyes on, so there's longer forms and all that. But
mhm.
in the beginning, I was very excited about TikTok. So I did do a TikTok class in 2019 or 2020, so it's kind of
In the
Mhm.
early
early.
TikTok. And this is where I realized that I watch TikTok very differently than my 20-year-old students watch TikTok. They really wanted views. They really wanted to succeed in this popularity contest that is a lot of social media. Yeah, they were much less interested in playing with the tools that TikTok offered to discover meanings of in filmmaking, sound image relationships, and then the duetting thing that you can do with strangers. They really wanted views, so they're trying to do kind of popular things. But then I did it again, and it was a slightly better class, but again, it was the early days of TikTok before it got into the longer form, and it started being dominated. In the beginning, I remember, who was it? I can't remember, but a few celebrities started popping up on TikTok, and there was a
Mhm.
movement to just not like them, to ban them, to try to get them off TikTok because this was like the playground for just regular people. And now it's kind of there's a lot of domination by celebrities and also, TikTok generated celebrities people who've become super rich and sort of famous for hardly
Mm.
anything, but somehow they're popular. So I think that's where the mind of many of my youngish students were.
It's fame, but what's happening with the art? I think that's my question. Is this actually good for art of film?
Well, along those lines, I remember I announced I was gonna teach a TikTok class to another class, and one of the students says, "That's unethical." I said, "Why is it unethical?"
Hmm.
And she said, "Because cinema is wide and TikToks are tall."
Yeah.
And I was kinda going, "Well, yeah, but, if you go to a museum, what shape are paintings?"
I was 18 and I had never held I'm not sure I knew anybody who had a video camera.
Mhm.
And so the internet has opened up the eyes of young people to filmmaking. It's just different.
It's all as an educator, it's hugely different as well
Mm,
because they have a lot of skills. Like, I think about this particularly in terms of sound. So they learn Pro Tools, and actually at CalArts, they took 2 Pro Tools classes, and they know all the things in Pro Tools. This button does this and
Yeah.
how you
mhm.
do everything, but they don't and I've found this consistently at CalArts, they don't understand the potential of sound in terms of creating meaning as it relates to image.
Yep.
It's just know
Yep.
how to do
Mm,
stuff, but how does meaning change if you advance the
mm.
sound a little bit or add this I don't know, there's so many things you can do. And that's what excites me about sound. It's what excites me about video and film as well, how you put things together and meaning changes.
I'm from Sweden, and when I came to, Los Angeles many years ago, we don't have to age me now, but we didn't I took pride in knowing the city. I so good, like, knowing where to drive, and you have that Thomas guide,
Yeah. I
and
never had
now,
that, but I know what you mean.
basically, I found, um, that Google Maps took away something that I used to be proud over, that I knew how to navigate in a city with just my common sense, and I can, ask people who they don't even know where they are. They have no idea what direction, but they have the map in their hand and they get around. Kind of sad
Yeah.
in a
Well,
way. Anyway,
I'm one of those sad people because I came here 10 years ago and Waze was available. I said, "I don't know
right.
where things are on the freeways." Once you're on a freeway, you're nowhere basically until you get off, and then you go, "Where is this?" So I've used Waze all this time, but I have had the anxiety. I get off and I go, "I don't really know where I am. I don't know how things connect together because I just did
Right.
what it said." And the freeways isolate you already, and then you get off and you go, "Am I close to where I started? Am I far?" And you
Mhm.
lose track of time too because traffic is so terrible here. 5 miles could be like an hour-long trip. So you think you're
Right.
far, but you're not. So that I mean, that's the same idea as this other talk we're doing about technology, that it helps you in your desire for efficiency to avoid the traffic jams or the accident or whatever. Waze and Google Maps will help you do that. But it does take away not the kind of holistic knowledge of the place.
We get so used to it. We're so adapting to it. We have to that's maybe the addiction that I can't live without my phone. I can't, and the technology is just becoming more and more.
Social media started off really cool, really good. Now we know that it can actually cause problems.
That's very true. We didn't know it was super cool to be on Facebook in the very beginning. Now we know it's bad, especially for kids.
My wife and I used to go to this island in Maine, and we would rent this little house that had an outhouse. There's no stores on this island. There's no cars. There's nothing there. You'd pay the lobster guy to give you a ride out. So it was very primitive. And when we were there was no internet. There's no
Yeah.
Wi-Fi.
Mm,
So we spent it was 2 to 3 days of withdrawal, and this was 10 or 15 years ago, so it was less intense. The internet was less intense. And then we just kinda became human again, just living in the world with the sun going up, sun going down, just
mm,
you have to bring all your food, so we'd be rationing our food, but all of that without internet. And then, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, they put up a big tower on an island
oh,
nearby. So now you had cell service, and then the owners of the house put in a Wi-Fi thing somehow, so there's Wi-Fi, and it just broke my heart that both of us were there doing this, doing
yeah.
the I there needs to be a word for this posture, the one hand up and holding a phone.
Right, right.
For better or worse, I think we are inundated with information.
But
Um,
I think it's too much info. It's probably too much in the just for us as human beings.
The whole system increases our dependency on the system.
Mm,
Like, there was a day where you ride a horse, you have a wagon. If the wagon breaks, well, you fix it. and maybe you take it to the wagon person, but basically with wire and wood, you can put it back together. You know how to take care of a horse because you've learned that, and the horse is taking care of itself. It's a living creature, but you feed it and you
Right.
help it based on what you know. I I'm confident I could change a tire on my car.
Mhm.
That's might be the limit, and
Yep.
I can put oil in, I can do basic things that I know need to be done, but anything beyond that, it really has to go to a specialist. So
Mhm.
and with the internet, I communicate most of my communication with colleagues and friends is through the internet. If that
Uh-huh.
poof goes away, I'm I'm stuck. So,
Mm.
we've evolved to the point where the civilization is, at least in the US, is advanced technologically, but our dependence on it is so extreme. If it breaks or gets destroyed somehow, we're like we're like those guys on the ship when the GPS
Right.
goes out, a bunch of stars, they're beautiful, but is that the
Yeah, where am
wait,
I?
no. I don't know. Let's wait till the sun comes up. Will that help? Well, that'll tell us where east is, so
Well,
that's good.
Right.
let's transition into artificial intelligence. A very famous physicist said, "This isn't an invention. This is a discovery. We are just connecting. We're building a brain. We're not we're not creating anything."
When this first emerged, I was thinking, well, maybe this is how humanity extends itself because not we're kinda messing up our nest a little bit. I mean, a lot. Like,
Yeah.
whatever drives us to this curiosity and advancement has accelerated and is kind of making our viability threatened, right?
Yeah,
Global
I agree.
warming and pollution and plastic in our everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
So we've kinda really messed it up. And if the Earth is gonna become inhospitable to human life, what will happen to our kind of this curiosity that we've developed and these ideas and how we understand the universe and the world.
Mhm.
And I had this thought, maybe that's what AI is. It goes off on Musk sends it out into space somewhere, and there's this computer that's
It's
making
the
it go.
monolith. It's the monolith.
It's the monolith in 2001. Yeah, with Ligeti, I think. We need Ligeti. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, so I have this kind of well, I guess it's defeatist in a way, 'cause I'm not I'm older too, so I'm kinda saying, "Okay, my click, click, click. The Earth might not end before I die. You guys are younger, so you might, but my kids are younger, so I don't know." I do have empathy for all the younger people. But I do think it does affect my thought. It's kinda like someone else will be taking this forward, and if we all die through poison and just lack of food and radiation, who knows what it's bombs, who knows what it's gonna be. This could be the thing that keeps going, if we even think that's important. I don't I mean, we're just humans. I mean, we're just these we're basically ants somewhere
Yes.
in the solar system of this minor solar system in this minor galaxy in a
Right.
major
Yes.
so who cares? I mean, now we're getting into kind of beliefs, but
Yeah.
from my view, it's like, if we die, who will notice
N
out
n
there?
It's true. I mean, I I was just thinking, for example, like if AI is becoming more and more and more, it start taking over work, it start taking over blah blah blah. And as a human, I feel like a lot of us we put purpose, maybe a purpose in our lives what we are doing, or but now we have something else who's gonna do it much better than me. I'm not so needed anymore because AI is can do that job much, much better than me. It can work 24 hours a day, is every 7 days a week. It just can keep going, going, going. But I'm eventually they don't need me. That's more my concern. Is this good actually for us?
I can. apply my optimistic biases to create a utopia out of that too. Because if the AI does all this stuff, then that is the question, what do we do as little fleshy humans? Well,
Right.
we sit around, we tell stories, we play games, I
We
don't know,
fall in love.
we fall in love and we say, "Isn't it beautiful to grow this plant?" Just because it's beautiful, and then there's a tomato on it, well, that's cool to eat. We don't need it. We don't need
Yeah.
acres of
That's true.
poisoned ground to
No, that's very
grow.
true. That's true. The one thing I will say is that
Mm.
we're gonna interview a friend of mine, Poppy, and she's got a PhD in neuroscience from Berkeley, and um, she's wonderfully direct. I said, "Well, I will never cry at a film made by AI," and she
Hmm.
said, "Yes, you will."
Yeah, I'm with her. I think you yes.
Yeah.
And that made me very sad to think that some computer is going to mess with my emotions because that's not even a real human making the movie. How
Yeah,
can
but
I
so, I was invited at Yale, they have these lunch meetings, you get food, and then there's a bunch of people talking about it, and that was AI, and like you, I said, I will thank you for the invitation, I will show up." And I don't know much, but what was really interesting, there was one older guy from Hollywood who's saying, "We're not gonna have a Beethoven, we're not gonna have a Picasso, we're not in from AI." And the PhD in music composition or maybe musicology. Anyway, she was there saying, Beethoven basically was an AI. They take what's known, they take what he's done before, and he reconforms. He says that's kind of we are the thing we've made. This AI is kind of what we do. We steal or stealing has a negative thing, but we just take things around and we form them
True.
together. I remember I did this before. I'm going to reuse that, but twist it. That's basically what AI does. So I think, and if you think about movies, I cry at movies that I'm ashamed that I'm crying at, like Disney movies. It's
Yeah.
like, stop it.
Me too.
Just don't do this, but I do. And
Yeah.
Disney is just an algorithm.
Yeah.
It's algorithms that have been reconfigured and
Yeah.
that's what it is. And that's what so much of what we consume is.
Well, Caroline loves Prince. And the reason I became convinced that I would never cry at a movie is because Prince can't be Prince without Prince. His music is so much his image. I can't listen to a Prince song without seeing Prince, the human being. So I thought to myself, okay, well, music's safe because I'm, but it's not. And I guess, yeah, I guess I'm gonna cry at something not made by a human about human emotions. Is just doesn't make me very happy, to be honest
Have
with
you
you.
been to a Prince ha did you ever go to a Prince
No,
concert?
but
So, where
Caroline,
do you
I have many, many, yes.
okay, but
Prince concerts, yeah.
and I don't know what I've never been to one, and it depends on the time period, but n now I think you get the jumbotron, the huge video screen, and then there's little tiny people down there on the stage,
Right.
and you get to see the screen. So even Prince, I would say, could be generated, a Prince 2,
yeah,
Prince point oh shows up, and it's basically a hologram or it's a person who's lip syncing, and then on the screen you have something.
I read a New York Times article about a guy who made avatar friends for himself and was very, very happy. Evidently, they were computer generated friends, and he confided in them, and they were his became his real friends.
But this is very human, though. This is I mean, what series TV? Why Friends, that TV show, which I had never got into, but my daughter is addicted.
Yeah.
But, other T sh I watched, I'm somewhat ashamed of this too, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Do you know what that is? It's a
Mm-mm.
Marvel
Yeah.
it's like investigative, I don't know, it's whatever that they are. But I during a dark time in my life, they were my friends, and I'd watch them every day, and they're just doing the normal superhero kinda stuff. It's nothing that interesting, but I like visiting them every day, and I think that's what TV has been. And that's what I mean, they have these robots in Japan for elderly people that
Yeah.
they they empathize with these
Yeah.
manufactured things.
Yeah.
So my question always goes back, what is it about humans that where we can take this need for social interaction with people and transfer that to things?
Well, I think I know Caroline enough to say this. I think both of us would take a bullet for our dogs, and Bear's never said anything to me, and he's never spoken. And I love him with all my heart.
And this is why I think well, this is a little bit off this topic, but when people say when I'm talking with people and religion comes up, I think I'm a lapsed animist because we all have these relationships, cross species relationships. There's a cat here. It's not our cat. It was the neighborhood cat. But I developed a very sophisticated relationship, partly through tuna fish, but also through real love. I'm sure the cat loved me not just for my tuna fish.
Yes, exactly.
But that's true with plants too.
Yeah.
And like I'm packing up to move east. So I
Yes.
open a drawer and there's this stuff. And I look at this and I say, this is just a little spoon. Why do I care about this spoon? Oh, it says Teddy on it. And then it goes through all this thing. And this spoon has value. I've never used this spoon. I guess I did when I was little. But things have meaning. Or this rock. It's just a rock. It's a gray
Yeah.
rock.
Yeah.
It's like beautiful. It has a round shape and it has meaning. So we extend meaning to things that have no real intrinsic meaning other than a rock's a rock.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, in conclusion, AI will make me cry.
AI will make you cry and AI will make you laugh.
One of the scariest movie to me when I was a kid was The Terminator. And I always had, and it's so funny, and I said it to you all the time, Sid. Like,
Yes.
I think my nightmare is happening.
But I just heard, I think it was on a Hidden Brain podcast or something, that we know that the AIs are more accurate about reading radiology and
Mhm.
uh, charts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We know that doctors make many more mistakes,
Yes.
but patients definitely want the doctor. They would
Yeah.
rather go
Yeah.
with the doctor who makes mistakes than the algorithm through the AI that's
Yeah.
perfect. So
100%.
that goes back to our need for humans. So that'll be the interesting interface, right? AI
Yeah.
and supposedly self-driving cars are safer than human-driven cars.
And I guess in San Francisco, they've been using a lot of them. And
Yeah.
they drove people crazy who lived there because they were too safe. So they drove a little bit too
Slow.
slow, stopped, really looked on all corners before it turned.
Like you're
So
supposed
people were
to.
like, there's no flow in the traffic. So they are probably safer than me driving.
AI needs the internet because it needs the data, and that's how it grows.
Hmm.
So, in a certain way, we're all whatever's left over, we're all part of it. Your films are part of it.
Out of it, yeah.
My music
Yeah.
is part of it.
True.
Good, bad, whatever. It's all part of it.
I don't know, but we have wrapped ourselves tighter and tighter into resources. How can we
Yes.
keep this civilization that's highly dependent on resources going and keep us alive? And that might pop.
It doesn't take very much to turn the electricity off. And if the electricity went off, you don't have money. You can't get your money out of the bank. You can't pump gas. You can't. I mean, we're talking about all these highfalutin things, and at a very basic level, we're still very, very, very vulnerable. You know.
Well, and we've made ourselves that way.
Yes,
We
we have.
did,
You're
yeah.
right.
I have. Yeah.
I can say another thing about AI. I would feel liberated if I didn't have to teach all of the technology that goes into vision, picture and sound. It's like just a heavy lift. if I could turn my attention towards more critique and analysis, and if this happens, then that works,
Well,
that has a different meaning, and then you reiterate, you keep iterating the AI generated thing. That I think is I think it's okay. Like, why should we open black cases full of gear and plug it in? And,
yeah.
why I would feel liberated.
It's an endless subject in so many ways. It's the good, the bad. I mean, I can think of, I'm not an editor, but I can feel with all the helps and all the things you can, it will make my life much easier if I want to do certain things, or you can write it. I mean, you can use the tools in so many ways. In a way, maybe it's kind of cheating, but in the same time, it was something I was thinking when I saw like what you can do with animation. I don't know how to draw, but if I can say what a story I want and blah blah blah, and it can help me animate. I mean, it has some really advantages.
Well, Bob Dylan was booed off of stage for using at a folk concert. The first time he used electric
1960,
guitar.
yeah. I
Mm,
remember that as a kid, and I remember as a kid because I was into folk music.
Yeah.
So, this was, I think, '65 or '66. I remember at that time being really confused because I thought, "What difference does it make? It's Bob Dylan." So, even then, I was kind of, let the people do what they need to do. But
right,
your animation example, Caroline, you don't need to know how to draw to make animation anymore.
right.
But there's real value in knowing in practicing drawing. If I draw, my brain is doing something, and it's not about the product, it's about how am I thinking through drawing, am I gonna draw this tree? That's an interesting place to put your brain. So
Oh,
AI will help us with products, but there's still things we can do with ourselves. So if the AI does all the work and we have like this, we can live with lots of leisure, I would draw things because
mm,
it's interesting to do, and I share it with friends and, let the AIs make the movies, make the Disney movies. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's kind of
right.
that remote already. Although I know many animators now since I've been here, and they're interesting people, but most of them are doing a very specific job. I mean, they're cogs in the machine.
People do just
Really.
hair. People just do hair or textures of this or that or the other thing.
I know when I first came here, I got a tour of Disney feature animation, and the woman giving the tour said, "Oh, you're gonna meet this alum of Cal Arts who was like a philosopher of animation." He graduated from
Mhm.
experimental animation. So I finally met the guy, very nice guy, and I said, "So what are you doing here?" And he goes, "Well, I just worked on Frozen." So this was back. And I said, "What did you do on Frozen?" And he said, "Eyebrows." And my heart just sank. This
Oh,
was animation, doing eyebrows. It was like, wow, okay.
wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's why I think of it like it is like a machine. It's called an industry. It's like uh, a production line, and everyone's doing their thing. Nobody's making a movie. They're all doing eyebrows, they're doing
right.
elbows, tiaras. I'm
Yeah,
doing tiaras.
Yes. I think that we've
yeah,
proven that we're all addicted. We have proven that there are good and bad things about the internet, and we're scared of AI. But maybe it'll be utopia. Maybe it will be. Maybe we'll all draw.
maybe it will be. But I also think sometimes before sometimes I think we still need to know how to go back to basic,
Yeah.
and not forgetting, uh, everything, even though the machine can do it and it maybe can do it even better, but I still think that we need to sit still, go back to basic, and really so we don't lose what we have in here too, and not just
Well, my ex-wife's mother was very into crafts, and she would get like something you built and you could see the picture of what it should look like. and she would make it, and she derived great satisfaction from making something that kind of already existed. Probably already exists. Thousands of other people have made it, but maybe not having. I mean, maybe the world will change in such a way that we'll get to focus on love more, and who knows? Maybe it will be a place that we
Yeah, I
want to
mean,
live.
your example about the crafts, yeah, IKEA generates cups. I mean, I don't know where they get them, but probably in China, but tons of ceramic cups that are perfectly functional, right? They hold the
Uh-huh.
tea and drink it. But it's kind of like my drawing example. To know how to make a cup with clay, to throw a
You are a
pot, and
potter.
I was, and you put the handle on, and you fire it once, you put glaze on, you fire it again, shrinks a little bit. All that stuff is just interesting for a person to do. It's not the most efficient way to make cups. I'm sure energy-wise, it's even way more inefficient than these factories that just generate thousands of these at once.
And I
So,
and I guess
I
when you talk about music, I guess when you talk like you talk about music, nobody's listening to my music. 99.9999% of artists, nobody listens to their music who make who make. And so what happens if AI starts making hit music? I'm still making music that nobody listens to. It's but I get the pleasure of making it.
and finding a dozen people who
Yeah.
listen to it with you, and it
Right,
lowers the
right.
bar. You're not competing then against people who have $800 million studios that
Yeah.
they're mixing in with producers, like 12 producers on it. You're making music that matters and people will listen to it. I think this could allow that to happen because we can't compete with we might not be able to compete with AI. So let's do something else. And I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of other things we can do. It might be things like we normally do, but going back to the basics ultimately goes way back,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we find our food and we build our shelter. And that
Well,
is all.
I mean, you got to ask yourself, I mean, being an artist is such a luxury. I mean, when did people even start saying I'm an artist? I mean, there were artisans,
Yeah.
and that was pretty cool. But I mean, like this whole my soul is better than your soul thing
No,
is pretty recent. It's pretty recent.
no, we just have different addictions. I
Yeah.
can't make these videos. That's
Yeah.
just every day. That's what if I actually, at night, if I haven't made a video that day, I come out on the deck and I shoot something
Yeah.
No.
and then mess around with it. So and the same with my wife. She paints every day, and she doesn't, she starts getting a little wacko. So
Yeah.
we are addicted to that
Dude, yeah.
process. Neither of us are making money on that stuff. That's not how we
Yes.
make a living. I'm an educator. That's how I make my living,
Well,
which
and I
is
know people have tried to make fun of me before. Yeah, whenever I say I make documentaries, they're like, yeah, how much money have you made? But I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm so excited that I made this. I mean, I'm still so excited that I've made these documentaries. To this day, I feel
well,
dopamine hit my brain.
yeah, because you've separated yourself from the culture that says value is how much you're making. If
Yeah.
you're not
Right.
making 300,000 in LA, you don't count as a human, really.
Yeah.
You're like a worker person. But if you dodge that, then you do. I could make a drawing today and nobody will see it. Maybe I'll show it to my wife. That'll be
Yeah.
it. But the process of doing it, I will internalize that, and that will matter. So this is my utopian survival tactic for AI.
Okay.
Right.
The problem is AI might say, "We're not gonna kill you, but we kinda need your electricity, so sorry."
Right.
Yeah.
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 It goes dark in LA because over in Nevada in the desert where they have the nuclear power thing, they didn't have quite
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. We can't
Yeah,
share.
that's true. That's true. Well, an artist always, I think, is gonna be if you are a true artist, you're doing it for the love of it. It's not for, "Oh, I need billions of likes, so I need this and this and that. It's, as you said, you don't care if you make something, if it's just you the one who see it, or 5 people, or it's 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 the inside of you that want to make it, and that's, I mean, we are addicted
It's
to,
true.
and we can't, and that is something we should never let go and just be like, oh, the machine can do it. We have to find
Yeah.
here again, like, this is important.
I mean, what I find myself doing as a teacher, I teach them how to do certain things, but it's really about why are you doing this?
Mm,
Because they get caught up in this. It has to be a great film, has to be really great. I said, no, just make a film. You have to
right.
have the experience of making a film. And if it's, you'll make an, if this one sucks, you'll make one that's great next time, but you'll know so much more.
Yeah.
But they focusing on the product, which, as we just said, AI might be able to just knock it out, in an hour or less, is not helpful even without worrying about AI, because then it's like, why are you making this thing in a certain way when you really are kind of almost saying to me, I want to do it in this other way. I usually say, mostly my job as a teacher is saying, yes, okay, do what you want to do. Uh, I mean, there's a little more to it than that, but
No,
basically
you've
that's what.
always been very encouraging. But taking your classes, um, you were always very I was always surprised at how excited you would get about our project ideas.
What it is the films, student films mostly suck to a certain extent,
Yeah, I would agree
but
with that.
people are really interesting.
Yeah.
And kind of not realized film or that lacks something is a statement from a human. So if you focus on the human, it can be really exciting. You said this in your film. That's so interesting.
Mm,
Yeah, but the sound is really all messed up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all true. But you said something, and that's that's the only way I could survive teaching this long. Certainly at Cal Arts, you have to focus on the person, not the product.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
that
Mhm.
is very
Yeah,
good.
I can see that. Yeah, I like that line. You need to focus on the person and not the product.
Product, yeah. I mean, it's really a I mean, certainly when it gets to thesis time, everyone's, like, so freaked out, and I say, "Just keep working. Don't worry about it."
Thank you so much, Leighton. It's
Yeah, it was a
wonderful to
blast
see you.
talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure talking to both of you, and I'd be glad to do it again.
Oh, thank you. We would love to have you
Thank
back.
you.
Thank you so
Yeah, we
much.
have, like,
Thank
about 3 more days of talk on this subject.
you.
At least, at
At
least.
least, at
Yeah.
least. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching or listening to The Internet is Crack. Tune in next week when we have another great conversation about robotics, AI, and the internet. You can watch us or listen to us on YouTube or Spotify or many other outlets. And don't forget to follow us on social media. See you next Monday.